Hey again! Welcome back to another of Vendel's arcade mode tutorials. So this week's arcade mode is very different from the first week that I featured, which was the Luby of Dabani. This week's quest is going to feature a lot more solo combat, and then a general use of the environment to your advantage. Last week I kind of focused on some of the things on failures and how to overcome them, but then also on how eventually you will find success. This quest is a lot easier up until the final phase, and so this time I want to focus on the difference between using your environment to your advantage and just going for the success via the more honorable methods. So, over the course of this video, instead of showing failures and then successes, I'm going to be showing only successes, but of two different types as we go through each of the phases. So this week's quest is called the Tales of Mettle, and we're telling a story to our friends, essentially, about some of our past exploits. And of course, when we tell stories, we embellish them. We take the details, we take our accomplishments, we make them seem bigger by making the odds more dire. So, this quest is exactly that. It is us pitted against incredible odds, fighting our way against these three heroes. Well, let's get into it. Alright, so with the beginning of this quest, the first thing we should talk about is character choice. Any characters with bashes, with full blocks, or ability to exploit ledges and other environmental effects are going to do well here. Of course, my personal favorite is the Aramusha still. This first phase is called the Jarl of Wolves, and it's going to feature a Gunminder opponent, so a Warlord opponent. Some of the things we have at our advantage is we never stumble, which is massively important, and we also have a regenerating shield. He does extra stamina damage, but you'll find out that that's not really a huge issue because of how his AI is coded for this fight. The very first thing you want to do as you approach this fight, if you're trying to do it the honorable way, is take out the archers. The longer the fight goes, the more of a hassle the archers will bring. Essentially, I don't really know exactly why, but as more time passes, it's like their accuracy increases and they start to cause you lots of trouble. Now, Gunminder's AI here is really interesting. For some reason, he exhausts his own stamina a lot because he really likes throwing out these unblockable heavies that he has. Now, because of this, he's actually really easy to just parry and then punish. So the way to handle this quest honorably is get rid of the archers, then parry his heavy hits and just punish him, because he's really not that scary once the archers are gone. Now, the way to handle this fight, which is the unhonorable way, which is a little bit easier, to be honest, because of the hassle the archers can bring if you don't successfully get rid of them quick, is to ledge him. There's a lot of ledges available here. He won't come to you until you lure him out, but if you lure him, you can head back to that first edge you start on at the very beginning, and there's tons of ways for you to kick him off of the edge. Our second quest here is a Pious Daimyo, and we're pitted up against the Kensei, Ranja, who is actually surprisingly easy to deal with, depending on how you go about it. Now, the first time, I'm going to show you the easy way to handle it, where honestly the modifiers don't matter, what you're doing doesn't matter, because you're just exploiting the environment. This can be done with pretty much any character. Any character that has kicks or bashes, like said earlier, is going to do better in this particular. Notice the spike walls, the pit here, you have a lot you can use that the enemy doesn't necessarily focus on. So our first job is, of course, to just attract the enemy towards this. For some reason, all the AI in this one will not follow you until after you've gone into like their combat zone. Running back here, there's a little spot you can stand between both the spike walls with that tree there, where even if he gets a shove or a hit off on you, you won't actually be shoved into the spikes. Navigate your way around him, shove him into spikes, and you're golden. This one's really easy if you use the environment. Now, there is a way to handle it without the environment. Again, his modifiers make him a little intimidating at first, but his knockback is actually to your advantage. If he hits you once, he's not going to combo you because you're going to go flying so much that he misses the second strike. Now, this Kensei, and most Kenseis, if you're being defensive, for some reason the AI for Kenseis makes them so they always open with that side dash attack, or do so quite frequently. Their attacks are very predictable to follow up on and get a blade blockade on. If you repeatedly use Ring the Bell or some other type of stun maneuver, you can get 1 or 2 heavies in pretty freely while they're suffering from the blindness effect. And it's really easy to handle. This next one is called Doubt is Death, and it certainly is in this quest. I personally have struggled for a long time with Peacekeepers, just because their dodge attacks can be so efficient. It's just one of those matchups that hasn't been perfect for me. This Peacekeeper in particular is a little bit trouble because she does some extra bleed damage and she heals, giving her kind of an advantage where you have to stay on her doing damage the entire time you want to take her out. Now, we have unblockable attacks. Now, you'd think that was extremely valuable, and it is valuable, but it's hard to make use of it because these level 3 AI are so good at parrying. Additionally, we have a few things to our advantage, such as this health pool right at the beginning. I highly recommend, just because of how the battle works out, at the very start of the battle, just grabbing this health regen, because it'll still heal you maybe the first few times you take a little bit of bleed. Get up Engager, put yourself into the attack bonus so that you can make use of that, and then take her out in whatever way you see fit. For me, one thing I've noticed about the Peacekeeper AI is after you open up with a guard break, she almost always does a dash attack. Or if not a dash attack, just a single heavy attack, hoping to exploit your moment of confusion after she blocks. Or your guard break, after she counters your guard break. So, rather than just waiting for her to attack you, take the advantage, take the initiative, guard break her, and then respond to how she reacts, because it's pretty predictable. We're now on to the final fight. This one's tough, but there are a lot of things going for you once you figure out how to use them. First off, the Peacekeeper responds. The Kensei has a regenerating shield and knocks back. Again, the knockback isn't a huge issue. The Warlord, on the other hand, heals and his block strains stamina. This means he's going to be your toughest opponent, so I recommend taking him out last because of how this fight works. You, on the other hand, gain hit points on kills. Once again in this fight, like in the Luby of Dabani, this is a huge advantage because there's a lot of minions. In fact, they respawn during this fight. We also don't have a guard UI. I have no idea who decided to give us this one, but this is awful. However, there's a few things you can exploit in this fight that make it still very, very doable. So for this one, I want to talk about the exploit method first. This map has catapults. And the catapults, some people complain that catapults are really hard to deal with in arcade mode, but really if you know what you're doing with them, they're a complete advantage. Not only do they target you so the AI just ignores them, but after they hit the AI, it staggers them and they freak out and start running around with their guard down for a few seconds. If you stay close to them, you can actually get another 1 or 2 free hits while they're just dinking around here. I basically let the catapult just abuse this Kensei. I do so little damage to her outside of the catapult. After the catapult's done, go through the minions. There's a shield booster at the bottom of the hole down there that's worth getting whether you're going for the exploit method or not. When you get back up to Gunmender, you have a couple different options. You can handle him the same way as we did with the Kensei. There's a catapult on that side, or you can try to shove him off the big ledge. While doing so, you have to watch out because he's got good shoves too. He is a warlord. I was freaking out right here, really worried that I was going to die as I was pinned into that corner and go tumbling off the edge. You know, just keep pushing back against him. Use whatever he does. Try to deal with the lack of a guard UI as best as you can, and eventually you'll get him off the edge. And as he falls, you can relish in everything you've just accomplished, even if you cheated a little. But let's also talk about the quest as a whole and how you have to handle it if you want to get through fighting everyone your own way. Now, in the Peacekeeper video I showed earlier, the same strategy applies. Ring the Bell is extremely helpful because it blinds the enemy and lets you get a few hits out. Every time you guard break this Peacekeeper, she's going to open up with either a heavy or a dodge attack, which you can counter with a full block or a parry fairly easily. Next up, approach the Kensei. Again, same with the other Kensei, he's got the knockback issue, so he's not going to double combo you, and if you aren't overly offensive, he tends to start attacking you first, and you can normally blade blockade out of it. With a Conqueror, you'd have an even easier time of just denying him here by using the full shield and then the unblockable that comes out afterwards. Now, here's a moment where I've been struck by the catapult, wasn't working to my advantage as much, and so what do? We go over and abuse the minions for the health steal with the heal on kill. This really is one of the most important things to remember because it's essentially a second chance, so you don't have to keep repeating the Peacekeeper portion of the fight. Anytime you're even slightly low and Ranja is far enough away for you to take them out safely, just do it. You'll thank yourself later, I promise. Once you do that, don't forget to run down and grab the shield. That shield helps you in your fight against Gunmunder, especially if you don't intend to throw him off the ledge, because it's going to give you just that little bit of opening health buff that may either let you get a revenge in or just, let you deal with his nonsense a little bit longer. Now, given the fact that Ranja's gone, you can fight him more out in the open, but don't be too afraid of getting him into the mob of AIs, because the AIs are not all that awful compared to like the ones on Breach that do a lot of damage. Make use of your Blade Blockade, your other full blocks, continue to parry him. He is still the same Gunmunder you fought in Phase 1, it's just you can't see his attack, so it's a little scarier, and you'll push your way through it. Continue fighting, just don't be afraid. Remember, I'm saying this again, always kill the minions. Abuse the fact that you have health steal if you need it. There's no reason not to. The catapult is available on this side as well. Additionally, there is an attack booster down the tunnel here if you fight your way through the minions, but I find it's not really effective to try to get it because it's a little hard. And you'll clear the quest. This one took me a long time to get through, but to be completely honest, it's not that bad once you realize the things you can exploit to your advantage. A couple final notes that I wanted to add. The Peacekeeper during Phase 4 does respawn if she isn't executed, so make sure you get that execution off. Whether it is via wall splats or guaranteed heavies after a full block or whatever you have in your kit, get that execution. You don't get that execution, she's going to hassle you later, and you're going to have a hard time dealing with Ranja and Gunmunder. Especially with her there too. It just gets really, really rough. I personally never beat the quest anytime that I ever let her respawn. I love this week's quest. It's a good one to try to get your effects on because it can really be done with any character because of all the exploits that are available to you. The hardest thing you're going to face is just the Peacekeeper that you can't really exploit your way out of. Well, anyways, I hope you enjoyed this Tale of Mettle. I'm looking forward to making another one of these videos next week. As always, comment if you want to see me do it with another character. And well, remember, modifiers modify playstyle. Vendel out.